All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming. If you haven't grabbed a drink yet, please do so. Grab a coffee, tea, whatever your vibe is. But thanks for coming. I've Got Something to Tell You. We are a true crime and paranormal podcast. And Tayler covers the paranormal. I cover the true crime.
I do. And paranormal can be anything like ghosts, aliens, cryptids. I could go on, but I love it all.
True crime can also be anything. Be adjacent.
Okay.
I'm just giving a little teaser for my story.
Well, I'm excited. Also, it's Colleen's birthday today.
Thanks, everybody.
So it's a special one. And since it's Colleen's birthday, she's going to go first today. I think.
Yes, yeah. I am. But we do always want to say that because we are a true crime podcast, we just want to say that this does involve murder, true crime, all of the things. So just prepare yourself and let's get into it. All right, everyone, I've got something to tell you. So I picked tonight's story because it's a new year, which means it's officially vision board season.
My favorite.
I know. You're not going to like it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. We're setting goals, resetting habits, leaning into self-help, positivity, manifestation, all the things we do to go into the new year with love and light. Tayler is already skeptical.
Is this about me?
No. What did you do? No, we are true crime, though, which is why tonight I'm sorry to harsh the vibe a little bit, but I am covering a self-help guru who built a massive following, a man who became the face of wellness and transformation. He even had Oprah believing him. Ultimately, though, he became responsible for one of the most infamous and deadliest wellness culture disasters in America, and it happened right here in Arizona.
Whoa.
Tonight, I am covering James Arthur Ray and the Sedona Sweat Lodge deaths. Do you know this one?
I don't.
Cool. This podcast is off to a great start. Just an aside, I am definitely not anti-spirituality, but I am anti-James and any narcissistic man with a microphone, so we are just going to roast him hard.
Okay.
Let's get into it. So James Arthur Ray entered the self-help world at exactly the right moment. His career kicks off in the early 2000s, and he's in his mid-40s. And this is the time when self-help is booming. Motivational speaking is everywhere. Hotel ballrooms are packed with people who follow these speakers on their circuits. And this was a new concept for many of these people, but it was a phenomenon that just exploded. And James Arthur Ray was right in the middle of it. Now, James did not study philosophy, science, or spirituality practices, basically anything that you would need to be a self-help leader, but he had everything that made up a good speaker. He was confident, polished, he spoke calmly and deliberately, he spoke as if he had already had the answer before someone could even ask a question. And once he realized that confidence earns trust faster than credentials, his career started to accelerate. His focus was all about success, discipline, and personal responsibility. He tells people success is a system, and the only thing stopping them is their mindset. That message, though, lands hard, and it lands fast with the audience. So James ends up writing a book called Harmonic Wealth, and this book becomes a national bestseller. The entire premise is that wealth isn't just about money, it's alignment. It's your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions, and they all have to be in harmony. Then abundance will naturally follow, not just financially, but in every part of your life. Mm-hmm. Again, we love this, like good mindset, but this guy's a scumbag, so don't be on his side yet. So now he's just not a guy on a stage. He is an author, and that's when his business really starts to scale. James starts selling programs alongside his book. He has audio courses, workshops, multi-day seminars, and these are not cheap. These are thousands of dollars at a time. Then he ups the ante and adds retreats. And these retreats are marketed as the real thing. These are deep work, the place where you stop talking about change and actually become different. Again, people are loving it and are just like, take my money.
Me.
Honestly, I was just
so
like,
far.
yeah, we would both fall for this like so fast.
Immediately.
So James is rolling in dough. He is building a huge following, and he's becoming a headline name amongst the motivational circuit. Then in 2006, his career blows up in a way that changes everything, because that's when James Arthur Ray becomes one of the featured teachers in The Secret.
Oh, no.
I know. Okay, so if you were alive in the mid-2000s, you remember The Secret. It was huge and people were obsessed. So
I think everyone was alive in the mid-2000s.
yeah, I think the audience, yeah, we all really.
People listening.
Okay, so raise your hand if you've seen The Secret. Yeah, Norman. But again, so The Secret comes out as a movie in March of 2006. Then later in the same year, it's released as a book. And the whole thing is framed as this ancient truth that's been hidden for generations. A secret that powerful people supposedly knew. And now you get to know it too. The idea was simple. Whatever you think about, you attract. Your thoughts shape your reality. The universe responds to your mindset. Again, all great. I love the positive mindset. No disrespect. Mm-hmm. The book ends up being translated into more than 50 languages. It sells over 30 million copies worldwide. And between the book and the film, it pulls in more than $300 million.
Damn.
Yeah. And James Arthur Ray was right there along for the ride. Like I said,
I gotta get in on this.
Oh, yeah, he cashed in. So like I said, he's one of the featured teachers in The Secret. He's positioned as the authority on how the universe works, someone who can explain how to apply the secret's message to your life. So once this takes off, James's profile is just like blowing up. He is on talk shows. He's doing interviews. He appears on Oprah. I told you, Oprah. Yeah. She comes in. She believed him. He's on Larry King Live. He even judges Miss America. He's being introduced to audiences who have never been to a motivational seminar in their lives, and now they're being told this guy, James, has got the answers.
He's got the secret.
Totally. So with his popularity growing, James turns his beliefs into a real business and starts James Ray International. I feel like the logo was just like him with like a pair of sunglasses on.
I immediately saw that in my head.
Yeah. So his programs get bigger, the retreats get more expensive, and people are paying thousands of dollars for seminars. And then tens of thousands of dollars for the more exclusive experiences like the retreats. So let's talk about these retreats and what people were actually paying for. These were marketed as transformational experiences, the place where everything finally shifted from talking about it to being about it. People showed up having spent their entire savings to be there. Some flew across the country. Some rearranged their lives to make it happen. Like they were just like, I gotta get the secret, and this guy's got it. So James's retreats, though, were designed to feel intense. They were long days with lots of emotional pressure. He had exercises that were meant to push people past what they thought they could handle. The entire atmosphere was built around the idea that discomfort equaled growth. People were even pushed into public displays of emotional breakthroughs. They were encouraged to stand in front of a room full of strangers and lay out the most painful and personal experiences of their lives. I was like, this is a literal nightmare.
Yeah.
This was us when we first started doing live shows.
We just forced ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, so the room though would respond in this like overwhelming support. The other participants would cry, cheer, hug the people exposing their trauma, and that type of response was intoxicating. Mm-hmm. It was intoxicating for the crowd, for the people sharing, and for the guy holding the microphone. But James started receiving letters from experienced psychiatrists warning him to stop these practices, specifically pointing out that having people publicly relive trauma without professional support or follow-up care was extremely dangerous to their mental health and safety. He called that junk mail and did not stop. I'm telling you, this guy.
What letter?
I show up at his front door.
Hand delivered.
So instead, though, his prices climbed and his practices escalated. He began incorporating physical and psychological exercises into these retreats. One of his favorites involved dressing attendees as unhoused people and sending them out onto the streets. His belief was that if you wanted something, money, food, anything, that you would have to earn it in real time. So he's basically sending you out with nothing and just being like, figure it out.
Okay, weird.
Yeah. So people are sent out dressed as unhoused individuals and told to figure it out. They are told to sit with the discomfort, sit with the shame. The lesson was framed as grit and personal responsibility. But what it actually did was put vulnerable people into humiliating and destabilizing situations in public with absolutely no meaningful support or processing when they came back. So they're just sent out like basically to be ashamed of themselves and then came back with just like, okay, you made it back.
Yeah.
It's rough. In 2009, a woman named Colleen Conaway.
Colleen.
I know. I bet she was really pretty. Just kidding. So a woman named Colleen Conaway attended one of James Arthur Ray's seminars in San Diego. Colleen had been struggling. She was looking for help. She showed up believing this was going to give her direction and maybe even save her. And this was the thing, is like, this man was definitely like targeting people on like the needs that they had. So I'm going to go through a bunch of things that happened at these seminars and just know that these people were definitely victims of James Arthur Ray. So Colleen, during that seminar, was put through what the participants were always put through, exercises like the ones we just talked about, public emotional exposure, humiliation framed as growth, and no professional support afterward. Colleen was taking part in the dressed as an unhomed person exercise, and when she disappeared from the experiment, it was later discovered she had climbed to the roof of the Horton Plaza shopping mall and jumped to her death. Yeah. Colleen was taken to the hospital without any identification and initially died as a Jane Doe. It wasn't until people from the seminar, not the organizers, the attendees, flagged it and realized that she was missing, and authorities connected her disappearance to the woman who jumped from the Horton Plaza, that she was finally identified as Colleen Conaway. Despite the mental turmoil and the constant warnings, the seminars continued. Some of James's other favorite practices leaned even harder into physical danger. At certain retreats, participants were instructed to break boards with their bare hands as a way to confront fear and prove mental strength.
Breaking a board to prove mental strength?
Yep.
Okay.
Like, what?
I don't know.
I feel like there's like 10,000 other options. So they were told to do this with no training or medical supervision on site. When people struggled, they were encouraged to keep going. And I am saying encouraged sarcastically. Mm-hmm. They were bullied and told they were weak if they did not keep going. One woman ended up fracturing her hand in multiple locations after several attempts that were clearly wrong, and encouragement from her fellow attendees to try over and over again.
They're like, you're not mentally strong enough.
Yeah.
Sorry.
She's like, literally, my hand is like
her hand's like halfway
jelly.
off.
Yeah. That incident occurred at a retreat at Walt Disney World.
What?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Not a happy. She just gets like a Mickey Mouse like hand to put
so
over.
happy.
During another program, participants were instructed to press the sharp tip of an arrow against the soft part of their neck and lean forward. The idea being that fear was the only thing holding them back. Okay, I did see this on an episode of Below Deck, and it kind of it did look. What?
They're still doing that?
They kind of like press it on their chest, I think. I feel like the neck is not normalized anymore, but
yeah,
I feel like there's like a magician trick to do it correctly. So like, let's not try
let's
it.
not act like magicians.
Yeah, but it did kind of look badass, I'm not gonna lie. So not defending James, but just saying. Seen it done. Okay, so now there were actually, sorry, not laughing. Nervous laughing. There were tons of injuries that happened from doing this, but the worst was when one man had the arrow on his neck and the arrow shaft snapped. So the metal tip penetrated the guy's face and it barely missed his eye.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So as extreme as all of this sounds, it still wasn't the most intense thing James offered. The most intense retreat was something people saved for. It was something they actually would brag about surviving. It was James Arthur Ray's ultimate experience. So we're going to talk about spiritual warrior. Feels like the most white man's version of
Sounds like something in a yoga studio.
Yeah. So the first thing is first, Spiritual Warrior is a 5-day program in Sedona, Arizona that costs at minimum $10,000 to attend.
Damn.
Sedona was picked specifically for the spiritual elements, vortexes. You've been up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it is.
But also for the isolation. So this is a multi-day experience in the Arizona wilderness where participants were promised a complete transformation. This experience wasn't about mindset anymore. This was about identity. They were going to strip everything away and rebuild you from the ground up. Spiritual warrior was framed like a rite of passage, the pinnacle, the graduation, if you will. So from the moment people arrived, the process started. To prove that they were all in, participants were required to shave their heads. This was framed as shedding.
I'd be out immediately. Like, no.
That hair?
You want me to shave this? How long it took to grow?
Do you see the shine? So now shaving the head is a practice that some spiritual healers do follow. But what's important to note is about how James went about everything. He was forcing people into this. Was not about shedding self. It was about being compliant to what James told you to do without question. And I'm glad you brought up the shaving the head because I was like, quick pause, but this is a cult, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cults different. I feel like in different settings.
Yeah, but I think everything is a cult.
Can be.
I'm literally, you told me what to do. I'm like, this is a cult.
Yeah.
So I always have to gut check with Tayler. We're allowed to call this a cult, right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, that hair is serving cult.
But I do imagine him having this long hair and then he's making everyone else shave their heads.
He had very bro energy.
So he didn't have long hair?
He didn't have long hair,
Okay.
but I love that you envisioned that for him.
That's what I would do if I was the cult leader. If I was evil. I wouldn't do
You
that.
just actually start making wigs out of the people's
thank you.
Good job.
Wow. Anyway.
Okay. Glad we can all agree. This is definitely a cult. Thank you. Okay, so from that moment on, though, participants were in this bubble of belief. You were in this atmosphere where everyone around you acted like this was sacred and life-changing. So you stopped trusting your own, like, this feels off alarm because everybody else is like, that alarm feels like weakness.
Oh, okay.
The days at Spiritual Warrior were long, structured, and intense. People were kept in group sessions for hours at a time, being pushed to share deeply traumatic and personal stories. Sleep was limited, emotions were constantly heightened, there was very little downtime. It was a cult. By the time Spiritual Warrior reached its midpoint, people were already exhausted mentally and physically, but they were told this was all part of the process and to push through. And that's when James introduced what he called a vision quest. I feel like we've all heard of vision quests because they are a real thing. They are a real practice. They exist. They've been a part of spiritual traditions for a very long time. But they are supposed to be done with preparation, with guidance, with safety measures and medical screenings, with people who actually know what they are doing. James, however, decided he didn't need any of that. His version of a vision quest was a 36-hour fast. Participants were sent out alone into the Arizona desert with a sleeping bag and minimal clothing, no food, very limited water. They were expected to sit with hunger, exhaustion, and the elements because discomfort was basically the entire point. Now, obviously, James was a spiritual man, so he kindly offered the attendees Peruvian ponchos to take with them on their quest for an additional $250. Nothing says ancient spiritual tradition like an upsell. The back said, I went to a spiritual warrior and all I got was this lame poncho. So people came back from the desert completely depleted. They were sunburned, weak, dizzy.
And they were bald.
They were bald.
So their heads were sunburned.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. A scalp sunburn?
Yeah.
Nothing is worse. Oh, okay. So the scalp sunburn and being hangry was the least, honestly, of their problems, though, because their recovery plan after all of that was questionable. As soon as they get back, they are met with a huge meal they are forced to eat. So you've just been starved for 36 hours, and I don't know about you guys, but like if my stomach is empty, I'm not stuffing it.
Mm-hmm.
And they are forced to eat this meal. And then they go straight into the final stage of Spiritual Warrior, which is the sweat lodge. And this sweat lodge is rough. It had been constructed on site, and if you Google this thing, it is horrifying. It is low to the ground, covered in plastic tarps and random blankets. It literally looks like someone built it basically with 3 Walmart trips and just like pure unhinged confidence. Like, it is disgusting.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was not a traditional sweat lodge. It followed absolutely zero protocols for a ceremony like this, and you better believe it did not include the safety practices that these legitimate ceremonies require. But inside the Spiritual Warrior bubble, none of that mattered. Participants packed into that lodge tightly, and once the ceremony began, leaving wasn't simple or really even an option. People later described how one of the teachers, or James himself, would be positioned near the opening or the only exit of the sweat lodge, meaning that if you wanted to get out, you had to crawl past an authority figure in front of everyone else who would obviously judge you for being weak. So it was this like very dark power move.
Okay.
He's like, get past me. So now all of these things bring us to October 8th, 2009. This was the last day of one of James' Spiritual Warrior retreats. On this day, more than 50 people packed into that sweat lodge structure. Yeah. I don't want to sit in a room of 50 people, just in general. But
Yeah.
I start counting. Just kidding. So the ceremony was not quick. It's not a go in, sweat, come out, congratulations. It ran in rounds. The plan was 8 rounds. Each round was described as roughly 20 to 25 minutes of heat with only brief breaks and no water. And remember what condition these people were in before they even crawled into this thing. They had just finished that 36-hour fast in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
They came back depleted and they got fed a huge meal right before the sweat lodge. So their bodies were already struggling just in every way possible. Inside the lodge, people described it as a wall of heat and steam so thick they couldn't even see in front of them. Also, part of it was like where you sat in the sweat lodge. If you were in the back, all you got was the heat. If you were closer to the front, you at least got like some air from the flap of the opening. So people started sweating immediately. Then that sweat started turning quickly into nausea. Some people began vomiting, which, like, I don't care what level of spiritual gangster you're trying to achieve. If you gag next to me, I'm out. You're out with the head
You're
shape.
trapped in a plastic bag.
It's disgusting. Imagine the smell.
I don't want to.
Everybody take a moment to imagine. But again, leaving wasn't simple. You were shoulder to shoulder. You were crowded low. The roof was low. The opening was tight. And there was that authority figure near the exit, a physical reminder that if you crawled out, you were crawling past your teacher and giving up in front of everyone. So people stayed and the rounds continued. And they got so much worse. At least one man on the far side of the lodge began shouting that he thought he was having a heart attack, that he was going to die. And according to multiple witnesses, James responded calmly. He told him today would be a good day to die.
He's like, you wouldn't die, it was.
Reminder to not go to Tayler's retreats.
I'm saying his thoughts now.
Okay. You really came up with that fast.
Just trying to get in his head.
But this was like the most horrifying part was that this was normal, that the suffering was part of the experience. Pain meant growth and panic meant weakness. Mm-hmm. So inside the lodge, the heat kept building. Each round added more rocks, more water, and more steam. The hair, they didn't have any. Sorry. The air got heavier and harder to breathe. People...
That's messed up.
I know, I'm sorry. People were not just sweating anymore, they were gasping for air. And at first, people tried to manage it quietly. They would meditate with James's words in their heads that overcoming the pain was part of the process. But then something shifted because the people closest to the opening were the first to realize something terrifying. This wasn't everyone is pushing through discomfort with meditation anymore. This was people are not responding. Up until that point, James's rules were running the show. Don't be weak. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't be the person who quits, and don't crawl out past the teacher. But when you realize the person next to you is unconscious, those rules stop mattering and survival has entered the chat. So the people closest to the opening started pushing out, and as soon as they hit the outside, they turned around and saw what the people deeper inside were dealing with. They were not choosing to stay. They literally could not leave. They immediately get others that were near the exit and were still coherent to help them start pulling bodies out of the lodge. But even outside of the lodge, it's not like there was some calm, organized medical team waiting. This was a pop-up wilderness boot camp run by a man with vibes and a headset mic. And when it became clear that people were seriously hurt, that some people were unconscious and unresponsive.
They're all unconscious.
It's like, this is bad vibes. I'm out of here.
Oh my... He does.
Oh.
He literally dips out.
Oh no.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get to that though, the people are like begging the staff to call for help. They're literally like crawling out of this absolute nightmare and they're begging the staff outside, can you call 911? Like, please. But guess what? Because of an incident in 2005 where 911 had been called for a man who ended up hospitalized after a sweat lodge session that had deeply pissed off James, the spiritual warrior staff had been given explicit rules to never call 911 again under any circumstances.
Whoa.
So they're crawling out, like literally begging for their lives, and the staff is just like,
Like what?
well. Somehow one of the participants, dizzy and disoriented, gets a hold of a phone while all the staff is standing around doing nothing. They have to call the authorities for themselves. When first responders arrive, the scene looks unreal. One of the first responders said it looked like the set of Lost. They were like, it's like literally a shack that survivors of something devastating must have put together. Like, this was not a health and wellness treatment.
This isn't a $10,000.
Oh, it did not look like 10,000. They're like, get your money back. People were scattered across the ground, some lying flat on their backs, some were curled up, and some barely conscious. Everyone, though, looked identical. They had the shaved heads, they were covered in dust, and they were exhausted and weak, and no one could give a clean or coherent explanation of what had happened. Emergency responders quickly realized this wasn't just heat exhaustion, this was medical distress. And as all of this was happening, our king, James Arthur Ray, dipped the fuck out. Witnesses later said that he had been staying in a separate area away from the camp. And when
It's in like a 5-star hotel.
on it, truly. So when the sweat lodge started going into chaos, he just was like, whoop. He booked it back to his cozy camp and left all of them there to suffer. He did not stay to help. He did not coordinate care. He did not talk to responders. He left the site while people were still on the ground. I literally cannot with this man. Sadly, as a result of that day, 3 people did lose their lives. Kirby Brown, who was 38, Liz Newman, who was 49, and James Shore, who was 40. More than a dozen others were hospitalized with severe injuries, including organ failure, kidney damage, and life-threatening heat stroke. One man suffered extreme burns because in his disorientation trying to get out of the lodge, he had actually fallen into the hot rock pit.
Oh my God.
I can't. And in the hours after the lodge was dismantled and the site was cleared, law enforcement initially believed they were dealing with a mass casualty cult incident. Called it. But that's how bad it looked. All right, if you are not enraged yet, here's where you should get heated. In the hours after the sweat lodge, while people were still in hospitals, while families were still being notified, James Arthur Ray took to Twitter, which I don't expect anything less from this absolute turd of a human. He told people that this was a medical issue, not a spiritual one. He suggested participants hadn't followed instructions properly. He implied they hadn't prepared themselves mentally or physically enough. This is wild. This is a wild thing to say when you are the one who starved them, dehydrated them, exhausted them, and then sealed them inside a plastic death tent. And then instead of apologizing, instead of shutting the fucking hell up, he started tweeting quotes from himself from his own books. I was like, sir, read the room. So after all of that, the deaths, the injuries, the chaos, the question becomes, who is responsible for this? James Arthur Ray. Come on. But they cannot arrest him because legally this was not a murder, debatable. It was something prosecutors had to prove was reckless. And I really hate this, but they did have to fight the fact that people signed waivers and that people chose to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So the state had to show this wasn't just a tragic accident. It was a man ignoring obvious danger while people were actively suffering. So how did they finally make it stick? Witnesses. People testified that participants were vomiting, collapsing, begging to leave, and the ceremony continued anyway. Doctors testified that the deaths were not mysterious. Duh. They were caused by extreme heat and dehydration. During the investigation and trial, multiple people came forward to say they had warned James' spiritual warrior was dangerous. Former participants were telling him the long-term negative effects that it had on them, and they stated that they had barely survived, and they actually were reaching out to others to not do it. So by the time that October 8th, 2009 happened, this was not ignorance, it was a choice that James had made. Multiple survivors of October 8th also testified that when someone said that they thought they were going to die, James Arthur Ray, famous quote, said, it would be a good day to die. And that was the moment, because now this is not a tragic accident. It's a man being told people were in danger and choosing to keep going. And that's how, in February of 2010, James Arthur Ray is finally arrested and charged with 3 counts of manslaughter.
Good.
Nope. Because this scumbag gets a plea deal.
Oh no.
The charges are reduced to negligent homicide, and he is sentenced to, guess how many years?
I don't know, then.
2.
2?
2 years. 2 years for the deaths of 3 people. He literally baked these
They
people.
couldn't even get like 3 years.
Not
For 3
even,
people.
no.
1 per. At least.
He doesn't even serve the full 2 years. He serves 20 months and is released in 2013. And he goes right back on the self-help circuit. Sorry, guys, this is a real bummer. But he talks about how prison deepened his spirituality, how it was part of his journey, how he was misunderstood. What he never does, not even once, is take responsibility for the 3 people who died on October 8th, 2009. He does no apology or no ownership. He actually tweets, quoting himself, "Every single thing is your responsibility and nothing is your fault."
What?
Yeah. Now Tayler always wants to know one thing at the end of these stories: dead or alive. He's dead.
Is he?
Yeah.
How'd he die?
I'm so glad you asked. I don't know, but I would really like to know. Imagine that it's in like a final heat stroke. No, I want it to be like Final Destination, where he gets like locked in like a tanning bed. Karma don't come for me, but this man was a scumbag. But he died at the age of 66.
Young.
Lastly, we do have to address what I know is on everyone's mind. What did Oprah have to say about this?
Yeah, what did she have to say about this?
After the Sweat Lodge deaths, Oprah very publicly distanced herself from James Arthur Ray. She made it clear that she was no longer affiliated to him. She deeply expressed sympathy for the victims of the families and removed him from all of her platforms. And that is the story of James Arthur Ray and the Sedona Sweat Lodge.
Whoa, never heard of it. That is crazy.
It's nuts, right? Yeah. I have a 2026 affirmation
What is
to
it?
end it with. Even Oprah gets things wrong.
Okay, Colleen and everyone, I have something to tell you. I do the paranormal section, as we already said, and today I'm going to tell you about Eastern State Penitentiary. Have you heard of it?
No, but I'm excited.
You looked very excited.
I love a jail.
Yay, you'll love this one. So it was constructed in 1822, And it sits on 10 acres of farmland known as Cherry Hill, just outside of Philadelphia. It is widely considered the world's first true penitentiary, capable of holding up to 500 inmates, each one kept in complete isolation. From the outside alone, Eastern State was meant to be intimidating. The massive stone walls stood roughly 30 feet high and 12 feet thick, creating the impression of an unbreakable fortress. The Quakers, who were the driving force behind the prison's construction, wrote that the exterior should be, and this is a quote, a cheerless blank indicative of the misery which awaits the unhappy being who enters.
Jeez.
And then the architect, John Haviland, intentionally designed Eastern State to resemble a church. He gave the building a neo-Gothic style, and another quote, meant to instill fear in anyone considering a life of crime.
How many quotes do they have?
Well, two different people.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a massive building there. Okay. So walking by, you're like, I'm not committing a crime. I don't want to go there.
Yeah, there's plenty of quote room. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The architecture followed what became known as Pennsylvania system, also called the separate system. The belief was that total isolation would rehabilitate prisoners. Officials thought that by cutting inmates off from one another, they would be forced to reflect on their crimes, feel some guilt maybe, and I don't know, like connect to God. You never know. The idea was that isolation would prevent inmates from influencing each other negatively, but in reality, it often created far more severe psychological consequences, obviously.
Yeah.
The layout of the prison was designed with constant surveillance in mind. At the center of the structure sat a watch station with 7 corridors radiating outward in a circular pattern. So they call it like a wagon wheel, because it's like the circle, and it goes out like that. If that makes sense?
No, explain it to me again.
So it's like the watch station is like this big circle, and then there's a corridor coming out this way, this way, this way.
Okay.
So
like the center and then the spokes. Got it.
And they did that because it took less like officers or whatever to work because they could see down each one. So that was why they came up with that, in case anyone was wondering.
I was.
Okay. So inside the prison, every architectural detail reinforced isolation. The stone walls of each cell were about 20 inches thick. Pipes were kept constantly filled with water to prevent sound from traveling between cells. You have a question?
No, I was just like, that's kind of smart. I didn't think about that.
And they also had heavy solid wooden doors to block out nearly all the noise. So all of that together, it's like complete silence in there.
That's crazy.
And each cell had only a small skylight, nicknamed the Eye of God. So they said that the Eye of God, this was like God watching them and judging them at all times.
Oof, rough.
Yeah. Even the toilets were designed a certain way with the plumbing so that inmates couldn't exchange written messages through the pipes. And they they would find ways to do it, and they kept having to redo the plumbing. But so the cells hardly had any air circulation, and it often reeked because of the sewage. And I think because they kept changing things, it just wasn't set up right.
Or just like the notes plugging everything.
They could be that too.
Yeah.
They're like, why isn't it going? I keep trying. So inmates were allowed limited outdoor time, but even this was carefully controlled to prevent any form of interaction. The exercise yards were surrounded by high walls so prisoners could not see one another. Outdoor time was synchronized so that no 2 inmates would ever be side by side. And they had like a chain connected to them, like to their door when they went outside. What? So they could literally only go a certain parameter.
They really thought of it all.
They did. And so whenever guards escorted prisoners outside their cells, the inmates' faces were covered with cloth hoods, like a white cloth. And only 2 holes were cut out for the eyes, and this ensured that prisoners would never recognize another prisoner if they're like in the same hallway. And the hoods were very unsettling looking, almost ritualistic, and only added to the dehumanizing atmosphere of the prison. And I have a picture.
I feel
I will show it to everybody. Spooky. My printer messed up and I feel like it just made it look worse. Like even scarier. So yeah, that's what they were walking around like, and imagine those ghosts looking like this.
That's what the ghosts look like?
Probably.
Oh.
I mean, if I went through all that, I would show up like that as a ghost. Be like, you want to tour my prison? This is funny. Just kidding. Okay. So you get how isolated it is and how quiet it is. So let's move on. 18-year-old Charles William was their very first prisoner to be taken to Eastern State.
You can turn the picture over if you'd like.
Thank you. I got you. So based off the way I just described the prison, what kind of crime do you think he committed to go there? Just like off the top of your head. I mean, it's like a fortress.
Murder.
He stole a watch.
What?
Yeah.
What kind of watch?
So it was an expensive watch because back then it's like the 1800s. I think they said it was a $20 watch. But back then that's like probably like $100.
$1 billion.
I don't know. Yeah. Or $1 billion.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Norman?
Norman, fact check that. Just kidding. So he was sentenced up to 2 years for the watch. Imagine being 18 years old and stealing something like that, being walked up to this big fortress and getting a sheet put over your head.
Oh my god.
And it's like this weird like prison church. It's like a nightmare. No, thank you. Okay.
What if they combine our stories like together, where they have to go to the prison and then go to?
I feel like they do kind of like go together though. Our two stories.
Tayler, why does he have a sheet on his head and he's the only one in there?
Well, that's just like that was their rules. Well,
Keep questions to the end, please.
I wasn't there at the time, but I'm assuming it's because they already had the rules written down and they're like, he's the first sheet on the head. Okay. If you don't like that answer, Google it.
It was $800. Whoa. We were off.
So I feel like this is the part that kind of reminds me of your story a little bit, because it's like you would think that like they're trying to rehabilitate these like criminals, so like you think their intention behind the rehabilitation, they're like wanting to make them, but they're not.
Yeah.
You already know that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying maybe the intention.
Everything's a cult. Everything is bad.
So let's talk about their punishment if the inmates did anything. So if you were caught tapping on a pipe attempting to communicate with another inmate, you would not eat for several days and you'd be in a dark, empty cell. No eye of God lighting up the cell.
They covered up Eye of God?
Well, the cell didn't even have an eye of God. They didn't even have a toilet, actually. I forgot to write that in there. It sounds like I made that up because I just added it in, but I swear. If you did anything else, which aside from trying to communicate or tapping, I don't know what else you could possibly do. But if you did, you were chained to a cell wall or denied a blanket in winter. One prisoner was kept in a dark cell called the Hole in chains for 42 days. And when a counselor discovered him, he was like delirious and he gave him bread and water and the counselor was fired immediately. Also, fun fact, in Alcatraz, they also have something called the Hole. So this was like a thing.
Okay. I feel like I heard that about Alcatraz.
Yeah. I mean, they might have it in a lot of prisons because I think they modeled a lot after this.
I'm sure.
Okay. The next punishment was called the shower bath. It was an inmate was stripped to the waist, chained to an outside wall in cold weather, and doused with cold water. If it was cold enough outside, ice would form on the inmate's body.
Oh my god.
Mm-mm.
So like ice bucket challenge?
Pretty much.
Just kidding. No,
Like people do this for wellness.
No,
today. Just kidding. It resets their system. The last one is really gross. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. Just use your imagination. It's called the iron gag, but it's a metal thing that connects to your tongue, and then the other half connects to your arms, which are behind your back. So just imagine what happens if you move.
I will not.
Okay. Because it was grossing me out every time I read it. And I was like, I can't. So by 1836, Eastern State was the most expensive building in America, costing $772,000, which back then was millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Did you Google that?
I did.
Okay. Norman, you're off the hook.
I got that one. Almost immediately, it became a global attraction. Sightseers from around the world toured the prison, and by the mid-1800s, nearly 10,000 people a year were visiting. Over the next century, more than 300 prisons worldwide were modeled after Eastern State's radial wagon wheel design.
300?
Mm-hmm. It was like a popular design. Despite its influence, Eastern State faced heavy criticism for its use of total solitary confinement. The London Times condemned the system, calling it maniac-making. Author Charles Dickens visited the prison in 1842 and was deeply disturbed by what he witnessed. He later wrote, "The system is rigid, strict, and hopeless, and I believe it to be cruel and wrong. I hold this slow and daily tampering with the mysteries of the brain to be immeasurably worse than any torture of the body."
Yikes.
There are no exact records showing how many inmates suffered mental breakdowns at Eastern State. Prison officials consistently denied that solitary confinement caused harm, even as prisoners deteriorated mentally. In at least one documented case, an inmate lost his sanity and died just months after being incarcerated. The prison physician concluded that the man, quote, "though apparently well on admission, was strongly predisposed to mania." Like, I don't know.
So it was
Just
his
went
fault?
crazy.
Yeah.
He did it to himself.
Jeez.
As the 19th century progressed, mounting evidence of mental illness and severe overcrowding forced officials to abandon the idea of complete isolation. By 1903, the white masks or hoods were eliminated, and the most extreme punishment devices, including the iron gags, were already gone. So to summarize so that we can get into the spooky stuff, there's like a little more happened. Al Capone served time there and caused riots and chaos,
I love that
of
for
course. And bank robber Slick Willie Sutton, which he actually escaped with 11 men, and he caused the biggest riot in like the history of Eastern State while he was there.
Love that.
But this did cause concern because the community around the prison in Philadelphia was starting to like blow up, like had like neighborhoods, families and stuff. So they're having these inmates like having riots and escaping. So in 1971, they finally shut that shit down. Eastern State sat abandoned for a while and was overgrown with trees. It actually looked really cool. Like they were growing inside the building
Okay.
and
That's
stuff.
good. Yeah.
And eventually funding was received to recover the building, and they began giving tours, and it became a big tourist attraction again. So let's get into the hauntings, starting with Al Capone's paranormal experience.
He had a paranormal?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So Al Capone was in cell 12. And when he was incarcerated at Eastern State between 1929 and 1930, he did not go through the same harsh isolation as most inmates. Due to his wealth and influence, Capone was housed in a comfortable cell. He had rugs, he had a radio, personal items, luxuries that sharply contrasted with the cold, silent cells surrounding him.
Power move.
I know. Yet, even with these privileges, Capone's time at Eastern State became marked not by ease, but by fear. According to long-standing prison lore, his stay would evolve into one of the penitentiary's most infamous paranormal stories. The legend claims that Capone began telling guards he was being visited by the ghost of James Clark, a man believed to be connected to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, an execution carried out under Capone's criminal leadership. Capone reportedly believed Clark's spirit appeared to him night after night, confronting him and demanding vengeance for his death. Over time, Capone became increasingly distressed, convinced the apparition was real and relentless. Which it probably was.
Yeah.
Guards later claimed they could hear Capone screaming through the cell block late at night, shouting the name Jimmy and pleading for the unseen presence to leave him alone. He was reportedly heard begging the spirit to stop, insisting he wanted no more trouble. Despite these outbursts, guards never saw another person inside Capone's cell, nor did prison records list any inmate named James Clark, house nearby, or Jimmy.
I feel like that's a really good brag as a ghost, being like, I scared Al Capone.
It is. Got him. Capone's cries were so intense that some believed he was either losing his sanity or attempting to manipulate people around him, being like, ghosts, get in here. According to paranormal folklore, the haunting did not end when Capone left Eastern State. Some stories claim that the spirit of James Clark continued to follow him after his release, with bodyguards later reporting unexplained disturbances during the night when Capone was alone. Today, visitors and paranormal investigators often point to the area associated with Capone's former cell as a hotspot for unexplained activity. Investigators claim to have captured photographs showing orbs and EVPs featuring unexplained sounds during the overnight investigations. Don't worry, I don't have any pictures of those.
I was like watching.
One of the most common experiences is the appearance of a shadow figure, of shadow figures seen moving through cell blocks, standing in doorways, and also on the watchtower. Cell block 12 is especially known for these sightings. Many visitors describe seeing a dark figure pass directly in front of them, only to realize there is nowhere it could have gone. Others feel watched moments before catching movement in their peripheral vision. That is the worst.
I hate that.
Hate it.
Those shadow figures, you never know when they're coming.
They're always darting around on the side of your face.
You can never catch them.
Too fast. One of the most disturbing encounters involves locksmith Gary Johnson during restoration work in the 1990s. While removing a lock in cell block 4, Johnson said he was suddenly grabbed by an unseen force and unable to move. The air felt heavy and oppressive as distorted, anguished faces appeared to emerge from the walls, frozen in like expressions of pain. So they're like grabbing him.
I hate
Just
that.
like with the faces.
You don't have a picture of that?
I don't. Johnson eventually broke free and fled, later describing the presence as deeply malevolent. Disembodied sounds are another reoccurring phenomenon. Visitors report whispers, murmurs, sobbing, laughter, echoing through empty corridors, most often in cell block 12 again. So I don't know what went down in cell block 12, but something did. Some describe hearing voices directly behind them, only to find no one there. Paranormal teams claim to have captured EVPs during overnight investigations, short audio clips that sound apologetic or distressed with phrases like, I'm sorry, or don't leave. Be like, sorry, I'm leaving.
Yeah. I'm out of here.
Some witnesses report full-bodied apparitions, often described as men in old-style prison clothing, appearing briefly in hallways or inside cells before fading away. One frequently repeated account involves a figure pacing along an upper catwalk, visible for several seconds before disappearing mid-step. These sightings are often accompanied by sudden cold spots and intense feelings of dread. And you like this one.
Okay.
Another legend involves the ghost of a dog.
No.
Visitors and staff have reported hearing scratching, panting, and soft growls. Okay, I don't like that he's growling, but it's cute that it's a dog. So this is commonly linked to Pep, a black Labrador.
Pep?
I know, isn't it cute? I just think like Pepper. It's black. I don't know. Maybe. So anyway, he lived in Eastern State in the 1920s.
They have his history.
He did. So he was like an inmate's dog. So they let them have pets in their outside area.
But they could not see. They put masks on them and stuff, but they could have pets.
No, when they're in outside time, they don't have the mask.
Okay.
Yeah, everywhere else they have the mask.
Listen, I would take it if I could have a pet.
I'd wear the mask if I could have Pep. Beyond apparitions and voices, many visitors report strong physical sensations, including sudden chills, chest pressure, dizziness, and the feeling of being watched or followed. Some claim unseen hands brush against them or tug at their clothing. Even those who don't witness anything specific often describe a deep sense of unease.
Oh.
These countless experiences from employees, visitors, and investigators have firmly established Eastern State Penitentiary as one of the most haunted locations in America, with stories passed down through tours, documentaries, and decades of firsthand experiences. And that is Eastern State.
That was amazing.
Thanks. Spooky. But thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.